To talk more about the crackdown on citizen journalist Luke Rudkowski, independent journalist, joins us now. Welcome, Luke.
Thanks for having me.
Nice to have you in the studio. First, want to talk about, since this is a fairly new part of the media, what exactly is a citizen journalist and what function do they serve?
Well, there's many different names for it: independent journalists, citizen journalists. I like to call them organic journalists that are not corporately modified to the corporation's liking. It's pretty much people taking responsibility and power and seeing the failures of the mainstream media, not concentrating, not harping on them, but actually being the mainstream media and grabbing that video camera, going out to events, press conferences, and other conferences that are happening all around the country and asking the questions that need to be asked.
And you say that citizen journalists can cover stories that are overlooked by the mainstream media. Can you give some examples where you or fellow citizen journalists have served this function?
Well, there's many issues that are not talked about in the mainstream press because there's a conflict of interest with, especially with SOPA and PIPA. Those key pieces of legislation that, the mainstream media never talks about, never brings awareness to. Citizen journalists have, walked up to their senators and the congressmen and have questioned them on these very important issues. The NDAA is one of them, Bilderbeg, 9/11. There's so much information out there. There's so much that we don't know. And I think the more people that grasp the power and actually become citizen journalists, the more of a educated and better society we will have.
All right, I wanted to bring this interesting little fact in. 6 corporations control 90% of the media here in America. Is that a problem, and what danger can that pose?
Of course, because there's different heads of these corporate medias that all meet together, all talk together. It's pretty much the authority to control all media based pretty much on 6 small organizations. It could be 6 people thinking about what they want us to know and what they want us to think. It's definitely very scary to see that. But because of that, you see the rise of independent guys coming up from all over the place, all over the country. People are stepping up and they're going out there and doing the job for them. And you see the mainstream media, you see these 6 corporations failing and are pretty much slowly becoming more irrelevant as the day goes on.
All right, and as we saw in Abby's story there, the fact that a lot of these citizen journalists have gotten caught up in the mix and arrested, beaten, would you say that they're targeted?
I guess so. What I do is a little bit different because I ask a lot of powerful people a lot of tough questions, and I have dealt with Homeland Security, the FBI, federal marshals, and it does feel like they are targeting us. We have the ultimate weapon in our hands. You have the truth teller, a smartphone that broadcasts live. If an officer is doing something wrong, they're not going to want to be filmed live where they can't even destroy the footage. And that's a huge threat to anybody in power right now. And they're really afraid of it. I have seen a lot of times where I've been punched by undercover cops, or I had an officer follow me everywhere I go. Homeland Security started interrogating my friends about me in Chicago when I was covering NATO, so I definitely do feel targeted. But when I do, I know I'm doing a good job, and I know that I should continue doing what I'm doing.
And I think we do have some footage taken from your cameraman. Let's take a look of you kind of caught in the middle of all the action.
Picture's worth money, Just trying to get the shot.
That's why you're running. Why are you running away?
No, I was following because he was chasing me down.
You did something.
I was just following him because I saw he was chasing him and I wanted to get the arrest.
So, what exactly was going on there?
Well, that's Officer Lombardo, who we made a funny YouTube video of on our YouTube channel. And he found me and my friend, who's my camera guy, targeted and tackled him on the floor when he was covering the march, when he was separated from everybody. The audio goes on, and he even, in that video, which you could see in full on our YouTube channel, said that he's going to make up 20 reasons to arrest him. And if he wants to be a journalist, he should go film birds in the park in the morning and not be here anymore.
Wow, I'm assuming you didn't take that advice.
No, we didn't take that advice. We were out there. We made another YouTube video of him called the National Geographic, Officer Lombardo, that I definitely recommend people see out.
Okay, and have you ever been arrested before?
I was arrested once trying to question Mayor Bloomberg. Illegally detained by NYPD intelligence, walked into a public venue where they were doing a public event. Before I even got in there, police intelligence stopped me, didn't let me leave the building. I kept asking them to leave. They said no, had that all on camera. Then they came back and with a bunch of police officers that said I was refusing to leave the building and got me for criminal trespassing.
All right. Would you say that citizen journalists, independent journalists like yourself, are often lumped, when you're covering an event, when you're at a protest, are often lumped with the protesters and the activists?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard sometimes to make a distinction because everybody is always out filming, rightfully so. But, you know, when you have press credentials, I always recommend people have their names and their picture up there so people know who they're talking to and who they're being on camera for. When you have those press credentials, when you obviously have a big camera and a big rig, you're obviously a journalist reporting on there. I understand sometimes it gets confusing. I'm not saying it's always 100% intimidation, it's always 100% repression, but we know it's documented. It does happen a lot of times.
So for the most part, are citizen journalists credentialed?
I guess, I don't know. I mean, a credential is pretty much a piece of plastic paper. Different people approved me. I mean, I was disapproved, approved by some police departments, approved by some conferences, disapproved by some conferences when they did a research background check on me. It all depends. I mean, I think right now it's very confusing, to say the least, but I think anybody who's coming out there and who's just filming is a journalist and should be considered a journalist.
And I mean, and that was going to be my next question. I mean, being a citizen journalist essentially means anybody can be a journalist. Is that correct?
I mean, you don't need to go to school. You don't need to do anything except do your homework, do your research, go out there and film and participate and get involved in what's happening in our world. And anybody could do this. It's in your hands, and I'm just calling for everybody to do it, because the more of us who do it, the more safer all of us are.
And that all does sound great, Luke, but I mean, in that case, if you have anybody being able to call themselves a journalist, how do you hold these people accountable? Basically, anybody can say anything about anyone, call themselves a journalist,
of course,
and will not be held accountable for it. How, I mean, how do you control or make sure that these people do in fact maintain journalistic integrity? Because if there isn't that, then what do you go by?
On the internet, you have the court of public opinion that will call you out in the comments on Twitter, and will let people know, hey, this guy's being a liar. He's manipulating facts. He's not being an honest reporter. What he's doing is wrong. And there's going to be a lot of people who are going to call him out and not take people credible. As you start doing this, I've been doing this since 2007. The more you keep doing this, the more credibility you build. And if there's ever something I'm wrong on, I admit to it, because we have to stay humble, because we're not perfect. We're human beings. We all make mistakes. But it's our ability to be humble that makes us trustworthy. And, you know, we all make mistakes.
All right. And Luke, would you say that the role of citizen journalists is expanding these days?
It definitely is. It's becoming somewhat of a trending topic where almost everybody wants to get involved, wants to participate. And it should be fascinating to see what will happen in the future as the profits of those 6 corporations that control 90% of the mainstream media are dropping. And there's more and more people slowly coming into that organic information that's being provided to them. And that's also vetted online.
All right, and I guess, so we are seeing this growth of citizen journalists. Would you say that they are now rivaling the mass media, the more traditional media outlets?
There definitely is a rival. I think there's still a lot that needs to be done as far as the citizens' part to actually be more of a reliable source, to actually be more of a credible source. There's still so much work that needs to be done, but I slowly see it happening every day. People are learning, people are believing in themselves, and they're slowly going out there and participating in this and becoming better at it the more they do it. So it should be very interesting to see what will happen in a couple years.
All right, very interesting. Luke, thanks so much for stopping by in our studio. That was Luke Rudkowski. He is an independent journalist.